I didn't even want to be there. That art party was Claire's world, not mine. Private event, industrial loft in West Loop, invite-only crowd. Everyone dressed in that curated, effortless way that probably took hours to pull off. I was the only one in a jacket that actually had creases. Everyone else looked like they'd walked out of a minimalist magazine spread. Black turtlenecks, moody makeup, hushed voices discussing brushstrokes and lighting as if they were decoding secrets of the universe. I remember asking Claire in the car, "Do you really want me there?" She smiled in that way that meant I'd already lost the argument. "It'll be fun," she said. "And it looks better when we show up together." Looks better. That phrase stuck with me all night. The place smelled like citrus and acrylic paint. There was soft music playing, some instrumental ambient jazz thing, and waiters floated around like ghosts with trays of tiny food that made me feel clumsy every time I tried to grab one. Claire, of course, fit right in. She always did. Perfect posture, wine glass in hand, nodding politely as some sculptor explained his metal and memory collection. I hung back, near the open bar, trying not to make it obvious I didn't belong. That's when I saw him. He was standing near a corner installation, some abstract piece that looked like crumpled steel covered in moss. Mid-30s, sharp haircut, fitted white shirt, not a wrinkle on it. And on the collar, high on the left side, was a deep, smudged lipstick mark. It wasn't red, not classic crimson. It was darker, almost plum. Familiar. I knew that shade. Claire had made a whole thing out of finding it. A niche French brand she had to order internationally. It came in this tiny square tube with gold trim. When it arrived, she called it her P*N. Said it made her feel powerful, dangerous, untouchable. I remember the first time she wore it. She came out of the bedroom for dinner one night, wearing that lipstick and this satin black dress. And even though we were just headed to a steakhouse, I told her she looked like trouble. She laughed and kissed my cheek, leaving a perfect print there. Later that night, she wiped it off slowly in the mirror, looking at herself like she was someone else. That color wasn't something people just happened to wear. You didn't stumble across it at a Dr. store. It was specific. Hers. I stared at that man's collar. I couldn't stop looking at it. He was laughing, chatting with a couple of people, swirling his drink like he'd done this 1,000 times. Confident, comfortable, and stained. Then I saw her, Claire, across the room, standing beside him. She had her hand lightly resting on his arm as she leaned in to say something. She tossed her head back and laughed. That laugh, the one she saves for strangers and networking events. She was holding a glass of red wine, and her lips were bare. I don't mean glossed. I mean bare. Nothing. No stain, no tint. No trace of the lipstick she wore out of the house just 2 hours earlier. And just like that, my stomach dropped. I walked up slowly. Not storming, not dramatic. Just curious. Watching them. The man didn't flinch when I approached. He gave me a nod like I was some background guest. Someone who might know Claire from work, maybe. Claire, on the other hand, stiffened just slightly. Her fingers dropped from his arm. "Hey!" I said, looking at her. Then I turned to him. "Nice shirt. White's a bold choice at a wine party." He gave a polite laugh. I nodded at the collar. "That's an interesting shade." Claire's head snapped toward me. He looked down, confused. Then Claire did this thing, this masterclass-level deflection. She tilted her head, gave me a playful grin, and said, "People bump into each other all the time at these things. Could have been anyone." Her tone was breezy, almost amused. She said it like I was pointing out a smudge on a painting, not the kind of mark that told an entire story. But I saw it. That flicker, a split second of wide eyes, a sharp inhale, that tiny tell before a lie forms, like a stutter in her soul, and then smooth again. The man glanced between us, clearly sensing something weird. Claire laughed and touched his arm again. "You'd be amazed how often people spill lipstick," she said. "I mean, remember that gallery opening in New York?" She turned to me, looping me in. "That poor woman ended up with lipstick on both sleeves of some guy's jacket. Total chaos. It was like watching a play." She was rewriting the scene right in front of me, making it sound absurd that I'd even mention it. Like I was being sensitive, paranoid, maybe even jealous. Probably just a party thing, she added, sipping her wine, calm as ever. I wanted to ask her, "What happened to your lipstick, Claire?" But I didn't. Not there. Not in front of him. Instead, I smiled. The fake kind. The kind where your face feels like a mask and your chest feels like it's caving in. I watched her for the next half hour. Every gesture, every touch. She barely looked at me again. She moved through the room like she didn't know me. Like I was just some guy she used to love. When we left that night, she was quiet in the car. I kept thinking about that stain. How she didn't even try to deny it. Just brushed it off like I'd imagined it. And maybe that was the worst part. Not the suspicion. Not the possibility of her being with someone else. It was how easily she twisted it to make me doubt what I saw with my own eyes. Like I was the crazy one. After the lipstick stain, something shifted in me. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I just watched. Quietly. Like a man standing in front of a locked door he used to have the key to. And after that night, I started noticing things I had brushed off before. Things that once seemed like quirks now felt like clues. Started with the phone. Claire used to toss it on the kitchen counter the moment she walked in the door. She'd leave it there all evening. Unlocked, face up, buzzing with news alerts or group texts. That changed. Now it was glued to her hand. Always on silent. Screen down. Locked so quickly I wondered if her thumb hovered over the button like a trigger. She'd even bring it into the bathroom with her. And not just when she showered. I once heard her giggling behind the door, then the soft buzz of a message being sent. When I knocked and asked if she was okay, she shouted back, "Just scrolling." Her voice had that brittle cheerfulness people use when they're caught off guard. Then came the running. Claire was never a runner. She hated the idea of sweat. Said it made her feel slippery and gross. But suddenly, she was waking up early, earlier than me. Throwing on new athletic gear and heading out for jogs in 90-degree Phoenix heat. Even in the evenings. Even when it was dark. It didn't make sense. And here's the thing. She never came back sweaty. No flushed cheeks. No messy ponytail. Her skin was dry, her sports bra smooth, her shoes clean. Once, I pulled a pair of her running leggings from the laundry hamper. They still smelled like perfume. The same perfume I gave her for Christmas. One she used to only wear on date nights. She came home from those runs, smelling like a department store tester strip. Not like heat. Not like effort. One morning, I caught a whiff of something else entirely. Faint, but sharp. A men's cologne I didn't recognize. Not mine. Not any of her brothers or coworkers I knew. It lingered on her hoodie when I gave her a hug. She pulled away quickly, said she needed to shower. Ran harder than usual, she joked. But I could feel her heart wasn't racing. Her gym bag, once unused, now lived in her car. And it never came inside. Then there were the meetings. She'd always had a busy calendar. Clients, design pitches, creative reviews. But now her meetings shifted. They started falling outside the usual 9 to 5. Saturdays, Sundays, dinners that ran long, calls that went over. She stopped inviting me to join her at events she used to drag me to. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe her agency was just getting busier. But then I tried to surprise her with lunch. Her assistant looked confused. "Claire's not in today," she said. "She's out at client meetings." I blinked. She told me she'd be here all afternoon. The assistant gave a nervous laugh. "Oh, maybe she'll be back later. I'm not sure." She never came back that day. When I asked her about it that evening, she looked surprised, then annoyed. "They changed the schedule last minute," she said. "It happens. You don't have to keep tabs on me." She said it like I was being controlling, like I was some paranoid husband who couldn't handle her success. But all I had done was bring her lunch, something I used to do when we were dating and she used to love. That night I barely slept. I kept going over the little things, all of them piling up in my head like stones in a backpack. The way she used to leave her laptop open on the coffee table. Now it shut down the second I entered the room. The new passwords I didn't know. The way she turned her body away when texting. The texts she never mentioned, the names that never came up. She started using phrases she never used before. Just trust me. Don't be dramatic. Why are you always looking for something? She used to tell me everything. Now, every answer came a beat too late, a shade too flat. One evening, we were supposed to have dinner with her sister and brother-in-law. I was already dressed, keys in hand, when she walked in from the bedroom and said, "We're not going. They canceled." I asked what happened. She paused for a second, just one, then said, "Something came up with their kid." But the next morning, her sister posted a photo of their family at a restaurant. Claire wasn't in it, but someone had taken the photo for them. They were dressed up. No sign of cancellation. No emergency. I stared at the caption, "Great night with the fam." I didn't say anything. Not right away. Because at that point, I was still trying to tell myself it was nothing. That maybe I was tired. Maybe I was the problem. That's what she wanted me to think, I think. Whenever I asked something simple, she got defensive, like I'd insulted her. Once, I asked her what time she'd be home. That was it. Just that. She sighed, looked at me like I was exhausting. "Can you just trust that I have my own life? I don't report to you." I never asked her to. That's the thing about emotional cheating or whatever it was at that point. It doesn't show up like a scandal. It arrives slowly, in pieces, in the way someone turns their face from yours when they laugh, in the absence of eye contact during breakfast, in the hollow space next to you in bed where warmth used to be. She started wearing lipstick less around me, or lighter shades, nude tones. Her old, bold colors disappeared, except once, when I found a receipt in the bathroom trash from a boutique store downtown. Same brand as her *P***N. Same dark shade. She hadn't worn it around me in weeks. I asked her carefully about it. She shrugged. Thought I'd try it again. I said, "You haven't worn that since the gallery party." She just looked at me. "Why are you keeping tabs on my makeup?" I didn't answer. What was I supposed to say? Because I saw that shade on another man's collar and I've been spiraling quietly ever since? Because every time I look at you, I wonder if you're still mine? Because you kiss me like you're distracted, hug me like you're checking a box? I didn't have the words. I only had the silence between us, and the way it kept getting longer. The moment everything broke was supposed to be one of those polished nights. A charity fundraiser downtown, all velvet ropes and string quartets and overpriced hors d'oeuvres. Claire said we should go together. Not because she wanted to go with me, but because, in her words, it would look better. That's how she phrased it. Not feel better, not be fun, but look better. I remember standing in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting my collar, thinking how strange that sentence was. Like we were characters in someone else's movie. People pretending to be a couple for the camera, for the donors, for the illusion. The venue was an old theater-turned-event space. Marble pillars, chandeliers with crystals that looked like icicles, gold-framed mirrors that stretched to the ceiling. Claire looked perfect, as always. Hair pinned up, the soft shimmer of highlighter on her cheekbones. A navy blue dress that made people stop mid-conversation. I heard someone whisper her name, one of the board members. "That's Claire, right? The interior designer? She's stunning." She smiled. I didn't. We mingled. She pulled me around the room like a prop, like the wine glass in her hand. Something elegant, but replaceable. I should have left when I had the chance. Around an hour in, she froze. 1 second she was laughing at some joke from a donor, the next she was blinking rapidly and clutching her forehead. "I think I'm gonna pass out," she whispered. I reacted instantly, reaching for her elbow. But someone got to her before I could. Him. The man from the art party. Crisp white shirt. No collar stain this time. His hand went straight to her waist like it had done it 100 times before. Not awkwardly, not hesitantly, like muscle memory. His other hand cupped her forearm gently. He spoke low, like he knew her rhythms. "It's okay," he said. "Breathe." He looked at me once, nodded briefly, and then focused entirely on her. Like I was the plus one and he was the husband. Then the part that still burns. He turned to the event staff and said, "She's allergic to naproxen. It might be the past hors d'oeuvres they had aioli. She needs fluids, and she gets dizzy if she hasn't eaten all day." Word for word. Claire didn't even correct him. I stood there, silent, stunned, watching this man recite my wife's medical history like it was his own. Like he was the one who'd sat beside her through ER visits. Like he was the one who'd held her hair back in college when she passed out from dehydration. A medic appeared a moment later. Young guy, clipboard in hand. "Who's her emergency contact?" he asked. The man answered instantly. "Me, her partner." I froze. "Actually," I said, finding my voice, "I'm her husband." The medic frowned and checked his clipboard. "You're listed second." Second. I didn't even know there was a second. Claire said nothing. She sat quietly in a chair someone had brought over, sipping from a bottle of water he handed her. Her hand brushed his as she took it. Not on purpose, but not by accident either. And I stood there. A ring on my finger, a marriage certificate in a drawer at home, and I felt like a stranger. Like someone who used to matter. The man's name, I would later learn, was M.K. That's how he signed messages. That's how she referred to him on her laptop. But in that moment, all I saw was this undeniable truth. He knew her better than I did. He knew what she couldn't eat, what calmed her nerves, how to speak to her like they were still in the room alone even when people surrounded them. When she was lightheaded, she leaned into him. Not me. I remember driving home in silence. Claire didn't say much, just kept her face toward the window like the passing streetlights might save her from this moment. I could hear her breathing, calm, controlled. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit the brakes, pull over and ask, "How long?" But I knew I wouldn't get the truth. Not then. Maybe not ever. When we got home, she disappeared into the bathroom and locked the door. Said she needed a minute. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her side of the room. Neat, composed, untouched. And then something inside me just snapped. I walked to her desk and opened the laptop. It asked for a password. The old one didn't work. But the new one? I guessed it on the second try. The name of her favorite author. The one he had introduced her to. The screen lit up, and I finally saw everything. It wasn't just texts. It wasn't just a few innocent messages or flirty emojis. It was a system, a full-blown structure, like someone had built an escape route, brick by brick, and forgotten to close the door behind them. There were folders, PDFs, itineraries, saved drafts, messages labeled "client dinner fake" and "meeting delay excuse." There were **TS of our shared calendar. Edited copies that removed her real plans and replaced them with alibis. She had even written out backup lies in case I ever questioned her. Lines like "my phone died" and "don't wait up, I'm having a late dinner with Laura." Laura, her friend, who'd moved to Colorado 2 months ago. She had another folder titled M.K. Trips. Inside were travel confirmations, hotel bookings. One of them lined up perfectly with the weekend she told me she was at a design retreat. I checked the confirmation email, same dates, same city, different story. She hadn't just lied. She'd planned me out of her life. Drafted versions of messages. Notes about what I'd believe. Schedules designed not around her job, but around me. What I'd see, what I'd suspect, what she could say to shut me up. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was cover. A face she could show the world. A safe backdrop to make her affair look like a slip, not a story. When she emerged from the bathroom, hair damp, robe tied loosely, she looked at me like nothing had changed. She asked, "Are you coming to bed?" And I just nodded. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed one more night to process. Maybe because I couldn't believe how far gone we were. Maybe because I was too heartbroken to move. But in that moment, I knew something for certain. I wasn't the main person in her life anymore. I was just background noise she'd learned to mute. That night, I lay awake beside Claire, listening to the rhythm of her breath. It was steady, even, like someone at peace. I stared at the ceiling, watching the light from a passing car drift across the room in stripes. I don't know if she was really asleep or just pretending. Either way, she didn't move, didn't speak, and I didn't sleep, couldn't. My heart wouldn't let me. My chest felt like it had a hole in it, a quiet, aching space that hadn't been there a few months ago. I kept thinking about the fundraiser, about the way she looked at him, the way he touched her waist like it was something he had a right to, the way he spoke for her, the way she didn't correct him. She didn't just let him in. She built a world where I didn't exist. The next morning, I woke up before her. She was still curled under the sheets, one arm tucked under her head like she hadn't burned our entire life down in secret. I got dressed quietly, left the room, and made coffee I couldn't bring myself to drink. Eventually, she wandered into the kitchen, hair tied back, no makeup, wearing one of my old shirts. The illusion. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "Thanks for not freaking out last night." I looked at her and lied. "You okay?" "Better," she said. "Probably just low blood sugar." That sentence, clean, pre-rehearsed, was my breaking point. She still thought she could manage the story. Still thought I was far enough behind that I couldn't catch up. And that was the moment I realized something important. This wasn't just cheating. It was architecture. Claire hadn't made a mistake. She had made a map. That day, after she left for work, or whatever she was calling it, I opened her laptop again. My hands were steady now. I wasn't looking for confirmation. I had that. I was looking for the rest. And there was so much more. Her inbox was organized into color-coded labels. Most people have inbox chaos, missed promotions, junk, receipts. Claire's was clean, efficient. There was a red label called Client Travel. All business on the surface. But inside, booking confirmations, car rentals, flight itineraries for cities she told me she hated, Airbnbs, hotels, most of them under her name, but the guest field always said M.K. One subject line caught my eye. "Don't forget the charger this time," smiley face. I opened it. It was a thread, nearly 100 messages long. The language shifted, professional at first, slowly turning personal. Then flirty, then deeply familiar. They joked in code. They referenced projects that weren't work. They talked about me, about what I believed, about how close I'd gotten. There was a screech asterisk T of my text to her. "Hey, just checking in. You still out with Laura?" Right below it, she'd written, "Cover working." And he'd replied, "Love it. You're so good at this." She was good at it. Every excuse she'd given me had a backup. Every story had a draft version. She'd saved files labeled "if asked," like contingency plans for a crisis. One was a Word document of common explanations. I scrolled through them. "Phone died while I was in the lift. Dinner ran late. Didn't want to wake you. Didn't feel safe driving home. Crashed at Anna's. Client from New York was in town. Surprise meeting." Each line was a thread I'd heard in real life. She had rehearsed me. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling a quiet kind of horror settle into my bones. It wasn't just that she had cheated. It was how far she had gone to maintain the illusion, how detailed her work had been. I looked at the file names again. One folder was called Home. It had screech asterisk TS of our calendar. Markups showing when I was out of town, when I had work events, when she could slip away without notice. There were meal plans she'd written out, not for nutrition but for optics. Notes like, "Make pasta night Thursday, he always likes that. Remind him to pick wine so it feels like his idea. Post photo of us from last vacation. Hide date stamp." She was keeping me compliant, distracted, emotionally fed just enough to avoid suspicion or confrontation. I wasn't a partner. I was a piece of her stagecraft. She even had files about me. One document was titled, "When He Asks." It was a list of ways to deflect my questions. "Why are you asking this?" Makes him defensive. "Are you feeling insecure lately?" Flips the script. "You know I'd never do that to you." Trust reset. "It's weird how you're always suspicious." Guilt trap. I read that last one twice. I remembered when she'd used it. The way she'd said it, so casually, brushing her hair back and looking away like I was the one bringing darkness into our marriage. And I remembered how I apologized. I closed the laptop and sat in the silence of our kitchen, the same kitchen we danced in barefoot 3 years ago. I tried to remember the last time I felt close to her. Not physically, emotionally, intellectually, like we were really in this together. I couldn't find the memory. Everything now felt like a reconstruction. A staged play. Lights, angles, costume changes, scripted lines. A version of marriage that had been running for so long, I'd forgotten what the original script even looked like. I thought about leaving right then, grabbing a bag, driving until the sun came up. But some part of me needed more. Not revenge. Not even closure. Just clarity. The truth wasn't going to K*LL me. But the guessing, that would. Later that night, Claire came home early. Said her meeting ended sooner than expected. She asked if I wanted Thai food. She curled up next to me on the couch, her head on my shoulder, her hand resting lightly on my knee. I watched her eyes as she scrolled through her phone. They didn't even flicker when she lied anymore. And I realized, maybe the most dangerous thing wasn't the betrayal itself. It was how well she had learned to live inside it. Comfortably, without guilt, like she'd adapted to her double life so seamlessly, it no longer felt like hiding. Felt like home. It didn't happen all at once. There was no big announcement, no slammed door, no moment where Claire screamed that she was done. That would have made sense, at least. That would have given me something to hold onto, something solid. But what happened was quieter, more surgical. She didn't leave me. She started erasing me. It began online, subtle at first. I remember scrolling through her Instagram one morning while waiting for a meeting to start. Not because I was checking up on her, but just because I missed her. We used to post together all the time, vacations, dinners, birthdays, inside jokes turned into captions. But as I scrolled, I realized something strange. I wasn't there. At first, I thought maybe I'd missed something. Maybe the algorithm was hiding older posts. But then I checked again. Photo after photo, all of her. Just her. Posed in front of sunsets, museums, city skylines. Sometimes with friends. Never with me. The captions were polished, generic. Grateful. Balance. On the move. The comments flooded in. Compliments. Fire emojis. You're glowing. But there wasn't a single trace that she was married. No mention of we. Just I. The photos that used to include me? Gone. At first, I wondered if it was just Instagram being weird. But when I checked her Facebook, it was the same story. Our relationship status? Removed. Our anniversary posts from previous years? Vanished. Her LinkedIn? Updated to say currently exploring. Like she was in a gap year from real life. Her company bio? Taken down. I actually called her office one day, just to hear her voice on the directory, and the receptionist said, "Claire? Oh, she's on extended leave." Leave from what? She left that morning in full makeup, said she was going to client meetings. I asked her about it that night, casually. Did something change at work? She looked at me for a second too long, then said, "They're restructuring. It's complicated." Complicated. That word again. That same night, I went through our shared Google Photos. It used to be full of everything. Road trips, beach selfies, that time we got caught in the rain in Seattle and laughed the entire walk home. I knew those photos existed. I'd seen them dozens of times. But now, the albums were half empty. Entire chunks missing. Whole months with 0 photos. The folder called Us, the one she made on our 2nd anniversary, was gone. I checked the trash bin. Nothing. I asked her later, half joking, "Did you clear out some of our photos?" She smiled faintly. "Oh, I've just been organizing stuff. It was getting cluttered." Cluttered. I didn't push. What was I supposed to say? Please stop deleting proof that we existed? It didn't stop there. Our friends, the ones we saw together for years, started to drift. Not all of them, but enough to notice. Texts slowed. Invites stopped. One night, I ran into one of her old friends at a wine bar. I hadn't seen her in months. She smiled, tight and awkward. Oh hey, I didn't know you were still around. Still what? I asked. She blinked. Still. Together, I mean. It hit me like a slap. Why wouldn't we be? She backpedaled instantly. No reason. Sorry. I just haven't seen you on her socials lately. Assumed maybe you guys were on a break or something. A break? Claire had done more than delete photos. She'd started planting absence. And people filled in the blanks on their own. That's what silence does. It gives people permission to forget you. Even at work, people acted different, like they didn't know how to ask, or didn't want to. One of my coworkers, someone who'd been at our wedding, asked if I was doing okay, with this weird look in his eyes. When I said yeah, he just nodded and walked off. I didn't know what they knew, or what they thought they knew. All I knew was that wherever Claire went, she was removing me behind her, and I was starting to feel invisible. We'd once hosted game nights every other Friday. It was our thing. Our apartment was the go-to spot. Claire loved setting up candles, arranging snacks like it was a spread for a magazine. But then one weekend I saw photos online. A game night, same crowd, same vibe. Different apartment, different host. And Claire was there. She hadn't mentioned it. Not a word. I stared at the pictures for a long time, noticing little details. She was smiling in one of them, drink in hand, sitting next to a woman I didn't recognize and a man who looked suspiciously like the one from the gallery party. Someone had tagged her. I wasn't in any of the comments. My name didn't come up once. That was the first time I realized she wasn't just distancing herself. She was replacing me. I asked her about it, trying not to sound bitter. You went to a game night this weekend? She paused for half a beat. Yeah, last-minute thing. Just a few people from work. You didn't think to invite me? She didn't even blink. It was mostly her team. Plus, I figured you were tired. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just nodded. That night, I sat in the living room long after she went to bed. I opened my laptop, clicked through photo albums I had backed up without syncing. And there I was, still there, still smiling, still holding hands with a version of Claire who looked at me like I was her world. That version didn't exist anymore. I tried sending one of those photos to her the next day. No context, just a memory, a silent way of saying, remember this? Remember us? She didn't reply. Later that evening, I checked the shared drive again. My access was revoked. I had become a ghost in my own relationship. No arguments, no fights, just quiet deletions, like being removed from a document one paragraph at a time. And the worst part? It was working, because I started to doubt my own memory. I'd ask myself, did we actually take that trip in April? Or was that the year before? Was she really happy in that photo? Or was she faking it even then? I couldn't tell anymore. She was still there in the apartment, still sleeping beside me, still pouring coffee in the morning. But she was somewhere else entirely. She didn't leave me. She switched me off. Like a lamp in a room she no longer needed light in. One Thursday, she simply didn't come home. No call, no text, just silence. At first, I thought maybe her phone died, or she stayed late at a meeting, the usual lines. But at midnight, I checked her location. Nothing. At 2 a.m., I got an auto-reply, on indefinite leave, limited access to messages. I walked through the apartment. Her closet was half full. Only key items were missing: her passport, laptop, favorite bag. Makeup gone. Chargers gone. But the rest? Dresses she didn't like, old shoes, a toothbrush. Felt intentional, selective. Like she hadn't left in a rush. Like she curated her exit. No note. No goodbye. Just an emptiness so loud it echoed. It wasn't a break. It wasn't even a betrayal anymore. It was an erasure, fully executed, fully clean. Like I'd been quietly removed from her life. Like she'd planned it all down to the silence. Weeks later, I saw her. She was at a rooftop lounge we used to pass on walks. The kind of place we always said we'd try but never did. And she was there, with him, laughing like nothing had ever happened. Like we hadn't shared a life. I walked up to the table. Her laughter stopped. Her face fell. She reached for words, but I didn't give her the chance. I pulled my wedding ring from my pocket and set it down beside her glass. No yelling, no questions, just that, a quiet punctuation mark. She stared at it. He looked confused, but I didn't look at him. I turned and walked away, not with closure, but with clarity, because she spent so long building a life without me. But she never planned for what would happen when I finally let go. And this time, the decision was mine.